All right, guys, I'm excited for this week because we also have like a fellow Colombian adoptee on here, which I'm super stoked. She found me. We like have talked through Instagram and I have mad love for her. And I hope to meet her one day in person because it's crazy how similar, but not similar our stories are. But I feel like that's even with me and Delancey, similar, but not similar. Like it's just adoptees. But I'm super excited to hear from her. She has so much wisdom. She's part of like when I have asked questions on Instagram, like with Delancey too, she's part of those like people that answer. Obviously, I hide identities, but like I love her and I'm really excited for her to share her story. I haven't even said her name. Her name is Anna. We have Anna on with us, and I'm super excited to hear more from her. I've heard bits and pieces of her story. Delancey, I hasn't heard anything. I've shared things with Delancey that she shared like about both of us. Because it includes Delancey. So I'm like, Delancey, look at this. But those kinds of things is what Delancey knows. But anyway, I will stop talking and I will turn the time over to you.
Well, thank you for having me. It's actually really weird because like I legitimately have started at the beginning of your podcast series and have been like working my way through them. So I'm not all the way through. There's a lot, and you add them on. So I'm like, but I'm tracking along and I'm having a lot of fun. But I just want to say thank you for what you both do. It's been really fun. Just like I consider myself to be like a learner of life, and I really learn a lot just by observing people, listening to them and their stories, their experiences. And so I actually don't know many adopted people. And so it's been interesting to not only hear the adoptee side of things, but then hear adoptive parent sides and birth parent sides and everybody in between and kind of how everybody's experience has unfolded. So it's been really cool. And I also really appreciate just the authenticity of the content that's given here and just how people are just kind of open and honest about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think that's needed elsewhere in all aspects of life. So
Yes,
I'm really
amen.
pumped, to be a part of it now. So pretty cool.
Yay. No, yay. I'm excited. I'm excited you're here. Okay, go ahead and dive right into your story.
Yeah, so my story is kind of a story of redemption. I would say redemption and faith. So I was born in Bogota, Colombia, and kind of towards probably like the second week of December. And on December 11th at like around like 6 p.m., I was found and like kind of, I think it was like a vestibule type like entrance of like a social work office. So I was abandoned there. And then from what I understand, I was taken then to the hospital for just, wellness check and make sure everything's okay. And then I was given a medical birth certificate. So they named me and they decided December 8th as the birthday, just because although I was very small, just I guess how I was acting developmentally, they knew that I wasn't like just born, that I was at least a few days old. So I don't know, December 8th is just the day that they picked, and that's when we celebrate my birthday. So yeah, so then
so I didn't know that. Like it's like that's one of the things we haven't like so you don't know your birthday. So the hospital, is that what it is? The hospital chose?
Yeah, they give you a medical birth certificate. Yep. Yeah.
And they chose your name? Was your
And
name
they picked my name.
was
Yeah,
your
they
name
picked my
different?
name. So no, my parents did end up keeping my name. So Ana Maria Perez was the name that they gave me. And then I just dropped the Perez and then picked up their last name when I was adopted.
Wow. I think that's cool that your parents kept it. I really do. Like
Yeah, that was
I like that a lot.
My mom's mom is the one, because my mom wanted to change it. And my grandma was like, no, like you should keep it. And she had other reasons why she wanted them to keep it. But yeah, so I'm glad that she spoke up and they kept it.
No, for sure. Yeah. I think that's awesome. No.
So
I think
so they chose I'm so sorry. Like they changed they chose the last name too. Like
yeah, I don't really know like the specifics of like why they do that, but I think just because I needed a name, right? Like
right.
Because I went into the foster care system. So like what if I didn't, like, what if I aged out, right? Like I would need a government name.
Right.
I'm assuming that's why. So yeah, so I don't know how they decide on that, but Perez, I guess, is a pretty generic last name. It's like,
yeah, I was just sitting there thinking, I was like, how did we pick? Like, I'm just curious how we picked Perez. Like the Anna Marie part, like I kind of get that, but like, how did I'm just so curious how they picked the last name.
Do they spin a wheel? Do they have a chart? Like that's my
I don't know. Is it like the first like nurse to take care of you? Like I have no idea rhyme or reason. Yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, so I had asked my mom like a couple months ago for like any documentation she had on my adoption, which she's so funny. She kept everything, like things that mean nothing. That's just like some random pamphlet that she got. but in it was, I'm sure it was probably a more formal process. I don't know. But the way that they worded it was really funny. That this woman, like the way I was trying to find it, but I couldn't find it. The way they worded it is like this woman, Flores something something, like said, "Oh, I'll take this baby and I'll like keep her until like she finds a family." And like so she's who I went to. And it just like kind of made me giggle when I was reading it because it like kind of sounded like, you know, like on like the Animal Planet when they have like those like hurt animals. It's like they like take it in and they're like, I'm gonna nurse it to health until like it can find a forever home. Like that's like kind of like what it sounded like. She's like, I'll take this baby.
I didn't want to say it, but I was like,
right?
I've seen so many reels lately of things like that, and I'm like, I don't want to say that because it sounds insensitive, but okay, I'm glad you said
no,
it.
totally. I thought it was really funny. Like just, and I don't know, maybe it was a more formal process, but like it sounded like this lady was on duty. I don't know if she was the one who found me or what, but she was like, I'll take this baby and give her a loving home until, you know, she goes on. But anyway, yeah. So I went on into the foster care system. Meanwhile,
in Colombia.
In Colombia, yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So backtrack back in the U.S. My parents, adoptive parents for this, obviously the perspective of the story, but my parents, they had 2 biological sons, and then my mom always wanted a daughter. I don't know. I know my dad like wanted more kids, but I don't know necessarily that his desire was like as strong as hers of like wanting, like she really wanted a daughter. But I think for him, he's just like, yeah, we want to expand our family. Like, let's do it. She had some health issues, and so they weren't able to have any more kids. And like in true fashion of my parents, like, not to say that they're not like caring and like they will help anybody. Like they'll open their doors for you. They'll anything that you need, like they will be there to help you. But like we always kind of giggle about like my brothers and I kind of giggle about like my parents adopting, like it's just like they're not like the most like, you know, cultural people, like, you know, like worldly people. Like they're not, it kind of was like transactional of like, we need a kid, like we would like a daughter. There are kids who need homes, like let's just adopt. And like Colombia was like, it wasn't like, you know, oh, there's these children in Colombia. Like it wasn't like that. Like I think it was just like somebody that they knew, somebody who knew somebody who had recently adopted from Colombia. And they're like, let's adopt from Colombia. Like, it was just like kind of funny. It was just when we talk about it, it's just like, how did that God, but like how did that really all come to be? But anyway, so they started their process. And another interesting thing that I didn't know until I went through these files that my mom gave me. Again, she kept everything. They were trying to adopt through the private sector. So like, but they had gotten rejected. Their applications had got rejected by like 4 different adoption agencies. And all of the agencies had like sent like a formal letter. And basically it was because they had already had children. Which I thought was kind of interesting. Like as a parent myself, like my kid's gonna go be with somebody else's family. Like I would hope that they had kids just to like prove like they can keep kids alive, like right. But
to prove the stability of the family.
Right? Like,
no,
like they have children that are living and breathing.
Right.
But for whatever reason, I guess that was kind of what they were looking for. So basically across the board, all of them had said, you know, we do look for families who, you know, don't have any kids or are unable to have kids and etc. So my mom being my mom, who just kind of like she doesn't take no for an answer. She's like, all right, well, she just kind of figured everything out, and she then went through the foster care system, obviously. And I don't know why they still stuck with Columbia again at that point, but she just made it happen. And so I think she had to get an attorney, and then everything went through the court systems.
Wow.
First there, and then later on here. Yeah, and then so that's how they decided on that. Meanwhile, back in Columbia, it was about May, I think, the court had done their due diligence of trying to search and like put out, hey, you know, we have this baby that was left, kind of like a search for any family that would come forward. Nobody comes forward. So then I was officially available for adoption, I guess. And so
Wait, hang on, sorry, Delancey has a question.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. This just keeps burning into my brain, and I can't not ask this. They actually sent a formal letter. I don't know why it didn't click in my head the private sector was in Columbia. I don't know. When you originally said they try to go to the private sector first, I was like, that's really just weird that they sent a letter in America. I wouldn't imagine why they would. This is weird. But then it's Columbia. So they actually sent a letter, a formal letter of rejection. Like I don't mean to say it like that brash, but I mean that sounds like what it is.
What it is. No, yeah,
it is what it is. And I don't like, I'm trying to wrap my head around, like, it's not like they're applying to college. They're applying to have like, they want to expand their, okay. I'm just making sure I understood that properly. It was from a private sector in Columbia. Formal letters saying, because you can raise and have healthy current children that are alive, no, we're not giving you a baby.
Yeah,
I just want to make sure we're all on that same, we're all on the same page there. Like,
wild. It's pretty crazy, right? Like, I wish I could find one.
I feel like
that is like, so nuts to me.
I was like, oh, is this where it was? And my mom was like, no, you weren't adopted from an orphanage. You were in the foster care system. I was like, wait, what? Like, I didn't know that.
She sounds like me whenever I found out new information.
Wait, what?
What? And then it's so casual. They're like, oh, the whole family knew. You didn't know? And it's like, weird. Whole family knew, but me. Cool.
There's a lot of that in my family.
Same, girl, same. I feel that. They always are like, you didn't know? No. Thank you.
You didn't tell me. Right. I didn't know to ask.
I wasn't like coherent enough to understand what was going on. I was a baby, or like not even here yet. So okay, I wanted to make sure I understood that, because it's I just keep going back to that. It's not like you're applying to college. It's not like you're applying for a job. You're putting in for a family, and you're getting essentially, and they got like
thanks 4 for applying from 4 different agencies.
I cannot. That blows my mind.
Like, they're like, we'll be sending back all of your, like, because my mom, she tried to like send like a personal letter, like kind of explaining like about her family and how, her desire of why she wanted to adopt and etc. And they are like, we've sent all the things back that you've sent. Like, I don't know.
I wonder if it's still like that today, because I know with some families that do want to, and I'm not saying just specifically like Columbia, but adoption in general, they still don't like it if they have. And I understand there's those families out there. I'm not knocking on the families, like the couples that can't get pregnant, that it's a great option for them. But it's like, what's wrong with families that have like 5 kids that want to bring another child into their family? That's what I don't understand.
Well, do they also get rejected if they've already adopted children?
Yeah. See, like, that was
like,
I thought
I actually don't think so. I think once you've adopted, especially like if it's going to be like the same, I don't know. I'm assuming in kind of, well, I guess I only know that through the foster care system, so never mind.
Okay.
Because my husband's aunt, she fosters, and she's actually adopted 4 boys through the foster care system, and then she's had multiple children that she still fosters.
Wow.
But anyway. But yeah,
crazy.
Yeah,
that's insane.
So, but yeah. So anyway, I don't know where I was, but
was trying to think too of what you were talking about. I'm trying to think.
Well, anyway, so I think I was at the part where so anyway, they match us. They send
Yes.
this picture of me,
Yes.
this little baby. I'm like in a snowsuit, I guess. I got like this crazy wild curly hair, which is also
A
really funny. Like
snowsuit in Colombia?
what I didn't realize is like Colombia is, well, Bogota is up in the mountains, so it's not. It doesn't get hot there.
Ah. I
No,
was like, you
it's
were in a
like
snowsuit?
60s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Well,
didn't want to say anything. I was like,
yes.
I feel like that's not right, but
So
okay.
so it'll make more sense when we get there. So they get this picture. They're like, oh, this baby. Yeah, we want this baby. She's so cute. Blah blah blah. So as you know, back in '88, or I guess it's '89 now. We're in the following year. It's not exactly safe. There's the drug wars are going on. So my parents decide that they are just one of them is going to go. So my mom had already been, at the reins of everything. So obviously it makes most sense for her to go because she's been handling everything. So my dad stayed back with both my brothers, and then my mom and my grandma came down to get me. And they stayed for, I think, about a week, just going through like the court process. But yeah, so when my mom first saw me, actually, she was like, this is not the right baby. Like, this baby is not it. And my grandma's like, what? And she's like, she's so small. She's so tiny. She's like, this is not the same baby. And my grandma's like, yeah, you see that head of hair? That's the girl. Like, this is the one. This is it. And yeah, so interestingly, and I actually just found this story out, which I think if I would have heard it a while ago, before I am like level-headed now and much more mature, I can kind of laugh about this story. But my mom, I guess when they got to see me and got to be with me, and I guess like I wouldn't stop crying. I was just crying and crying and crying and crying and crying, miserable. And one of my brothers, actually, when he was a baby, he got really bad whooping cough, and he almost died several times. And it was very traumatic. He had this like whole like alarm system that would like go off when he stopped breathing. Sometimes it would like do false alarms. It was terrible. I think my mom was a bit like PTSD from that. And so she freaked out. She called my dad and she was like, I don't think I can take this baby. Like, she won't stop crying. Like, I cannot go through this again, like with another baby. Like, it's just too much. And my dad was like, listen, that's my daughter. Bring my daughter home. Like, bring her home. And I just like listening to my mom, like as she's saying it, I'm like, did she realize like this is probably something I don't want to hear? But like then hearing like my dad's side of it, I was like, okay. And then also like thinking about like what she had went through and like just being like understanding like, yeah, like what she went through was really hard. And so for her to be like, are we really ready for this? Like, I can't fault her for having that like moment of weakness.
Right.
But yeah, just like for my dad to be like, he was just like, no, like that's our daughter. Like, we've already decided this. Like, she's ours. Like, bring our daughter home. I thought that was pretty cool.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, so the people that they stayed with, Jorge and Pepita, they were just like this couple that would host families that were coming down to adopt. And Pepita was like, I don't know what the pediatrician that the court had sent you to or cleared her, but like there's something wrong with this baby. Like, something is clearly wrong with her. Like, we should come to like their family pediatrician. So we went to their family pediatrician. They were like, this girl I was 9 pounds at 10 months. I had double ear infection. And the doctor was like, yeah, she needs medicine and like, this special formula or whatever. Different baby, 180, like didn't cry, was like content, happy, slept well. Like, it was completely different. So thank you, Pepita, and thank you, Dad.
Were they not taking care of you in the foster home?
So that's like something that I found really interesting, because I was like, I was telling my husband, because so for a long time, I just assumed, I never asked, I just assumed I was adopted through like an orphanage. Like, I thought I was at an orphanage, especially like just knowing that I was 9 pounds, 10 months. I'm thinking orphanage, poor, they don't got enough food. And then when I read that, I was like, wait a second, it was the foster care system? My mom was like, yeah. And I was like, how? I was 9, I was dying. You know, like how, like, what is that? I don't really know how that works. So, yeah, I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Wow.
I'm with you, Nancy.
Oh, yeah, we should have warned you. Sometimes I make faces, and well, I mean, it's just like it just goes to show you, like, everyone talks about the American foster care system is so awful and X, Y, and Z, but hearing that, it's like, okay, so every foster system has
Exactly.
its opportunities,
right.
I guess is the polite way to put that,
To be
because
better.
that's insanity to me, because like I feel like right now it's taking me a little longer for things to click. And like you kept saying 9 pounds, 10 months. I was like, well, that's not. Then I was like, wait a minute. No, that's not right.
My
No,
son was born over 9 pounds. My daughter, she was born almost 9 pounds. Like I was tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, once I got on a better formula, once they, got me some better medication from my, they said, in all of like the social work files and like even my parents said like I was the most content baby. I didn't cry. I was happy. Just I was a very good baby. I shouldn't say good because like just because you cry doesn't make it bad. But like I was a very easy baby. Is what I should say. I was an easy baby.
Yeah.
I was going to say the playing field got leveled.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. There you go.
It got leveled.
Yeah. So I was very, very fortunate. My brothers were the best. They are the best. We are super close. They've always just, I'm their sister. Like I'm not their adopted sister. I'm not
I love that.
any different. And so I understand now that that's not necessarily the case for everyone.
Right.
But for me it was. And so I am very grateful for that. And the same thing with my dad too, obviously, as I just told you, like, I know that's not always,
right.
For everybody, sometimes it's just one party wants to adopt and the other just kind of goes with it. But like my dad, I'm his, like, and just as much as my mom wanted, to have a daughter, like I'm just as much. So that's one thing that I really do applaud my parents on is like they never made me othered. I was never othered. And so I do applaud them for that.
Like, I like that.
That's probably going to be your quote for this.
That's the quote.
They never made me othered.
Quote.
I love that though. That's a good way to put it. Like really.
Yeah. Best way. Yeah. That's the best way to put that.
Yeah. So things were pretty good up until about third grade. And I remember this very distinctly, and looking back on it now and just knowing what I know about anxiety now, is the first time I ever had a panic attack. And I was getting ready, my mom was like, oh, tomorrow's third grade, you're going to third grade, wow, we're so excited. And I remember she left my room and I just was overcome with just sheer terror and that they were going to die. They were going to die and I was going to be alone. And what am I going to do? And I just remember her coming in and she's like, what is going on? And I'm like, I just don't want you to die. I just don't want you to die. And I'm just shaking and I'm sobbing and that was honestly the beginning of this like kind of downward spiral for me. First it was very internal and I'm very, I've always been called like an old soul. I've always been, she's so, wise for her age and whatnot. And I've always been somebody who thinks very deeply about things. I'm very observant, very aware of like other people, how they're acting, what they might be thinking. And like things would start to bother me. Like we would be out at the store or something and someone would be like, oh, is she yours? And like that, I hated that so much.
Yeah.
Because like it's like when you're a kid, like you don't know any better. So like your family is your family. Like my like my mom and my dad. Like I obviously always knew I was adopted. Like my family, they're blonde hair, blue eyed, they're white. Like I'm obviously not like so like being adopted was never a secret. Like I've always known.
Yeah.
I didn't know what that meant And I think it probably like 3rd grade. That's probably actually when I really fully understand like what that meant. But yeah, I hated when people would ask that. And you know, my mom would always just be like, oh yeah, you know, we got it from Colombia, da 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 da. And I hated that response. Like and like she did not mean for that to be in any way. Like that's a perfectly normal response. Yeah. But for me internally and for what I needed, which I didn't know how to voice that I needed, was for her to say, of course she's mine. Yeah, she's mine. Yeah. You know, yeah. So that was kind of the beginning of things where that's when I really started to mourn the loss of my biological family. And I really, really longed for them. I wanted to know them. I started having dreams about my mom, and it was the same woman every time. And it would be like, I just couldn't get to her. And I would have this dream over and over and over again. And I knew that it was my mom, but like, I didn't know how to say, like, I'm having dreams about my biological mother. Right. Yeah. And so I think I'm the type of person, or I'm the type of adopted person who definitely went through a really intense grieving phase. I really struggle with guilt in that way. And I know that's not for everybody. Like that's just me personally. Like I really felt guilty having those thoughts and having those feelings. And I didn't know how to talk to my parents about it, because it wasn't like they were doing anything bad or wrong, or that I didn't even want them to be my parents. Because I was actually thinking about, I was talking to my husband, and because as I was kind of thinking about this interview, I was like, you know, even though I longed for them, even though I wanted to know them, I don't necessarily know that I never had the thought of like, because I want to be with them, like, because I want to live with them. I want her to be my mother. I want him to be my father. I just wanted to know them. Like, I know that sounds real goofy, but like,
no,
not at all.
It doesn't.
Yeah. And I just like, I really felt ashamed having those feelings of just longing for them. And because I didn't want to offend my parents. I didn't want to, you know, offend my brothers, or for them to think that I'm ungrateful, or, you know, don't love them, or whatever. And of course, you know, being young, just a child at that point, you know, I don't have the, you know, maturity to be dealing with those types of feelings on my own. Right. And so they just grow into like these things that are not true. And
right.
I mean, in my personal faith as a Christian, that's Satan, right? That's Satan at work.
100%.
When you are trying to go it alone, like, that's when you are the most vulnerable for his attacks.
Yes.
That could not be any more of the truth for me, of just like, you know, so I went on, and when I entered into middle school, that's when things really went south for me. And it went from like an internal struggle into now it was coming out. And I was very angry, very aggressive, like I had a mouth on me, and I was so angry and confused, and I didn't really know necessarily why. I just knew I was, and I didn't know what to do with it. And so I just was not a nice person. I was not giving myself like enough grace, because I mean, I had friends, and I was, you know, whatever, but maybe that's just like how I felt about myself. I guess I should probably ask people like, what did you think about me? That's how I think about me. I know at home it's definitely
right. I would say maybe you're just a little sassy.
It's true.
It was a lot of sass.
Maybe a little maybe sassy with a little bit of snark in there, because I can relate to that, because that's how I was. I was that way too. I was a little sassy with some snark in there.
Yeah. And so so then I go on to high school, and I mean, things are really just tanking. And I kind of was like living a double life, to be honest, of just like, I was just like partying and being promiscuous, and just like really just being destructive, because I didn't think I was worth anything. I think I thought it was because I was adopted, right? Like in my mind, I'm like, even my own mother didn't want me. right?
Oh.
Like she just left me. Like she didn't leave anything. She didn't leave a note. She didn't leave a name. She left nothing. She just left me. It's not the truth. That's what I thought. Like that is what I thought.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what I told myself. And so, I mean, I was reckless, but like to everybody else, I was like, you know, goody goody, like had it all together, but I did not have it together. Like I did not. And I just, yeah, I don't know. I just was really spiraling down, and I hit college, and I was just, now I'm like out of the house. I'm having growing pains with my parents. And in their defense, like it wasn't about adoption. It never was about adoption. I had the same growing pains with my parents that my brothers did. Like we all have the same issues. Like it has nothing to do with adoption. It just has to do with like us as a family. Every family has hard times.
Right.
And I certainly didn't make it easy for them. I know I didn't. I take full responsibility. Like there are things that, yeah, I was rough. And I'm sorry.
No, I just want to point out, Mom, if you're listening, I wasn't the only one. Thank you, Anna.
Yeah. And so I get into college. I didn't want to go to college, by the way. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't want to go. Yeah, I'm with you.
Thank you.
Parents were like, you gotta go. And I'm like, fine, but I'm only gonna apply to one school. It was a school my brother went to, and I was like, that's it. I'm like, if I have to go to college, I'm gonna go where he went. He now, because he was out of state, and I'm like, he still kind of lived over that way. And so I was like, fine, that's where I'll go and whatever. And so I end up going there, and I was miserable. I was so miserable. I had just broken up with my boyfriend. That was like a whole thing. I was like looking to fill the void in my heart, the void. And that was like, girl.
I feel that.
Like, don't do that. Okay, don't do that. And yeah, so like I go home for like winter break, and I'm like begging my parents, I don't want to go back. This is my freshman year. I'm like, I don't want to go back. Please don't make me go back. Please don't make me go back. And I mean, I am begging my dad. He's driving me back. We're like driving through this blizzard, and I am like, please, like I'll do anything. I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back. I get back. I joined the track team, and everything kind of switched. I had finally like got this guy out of my life. And I'm like starting to make new friends, and things are kind of getting better, but I'm still pretty like stuck in old habits. Still angry. Like I've not addressed my anger at all. And then I meet this guy on our track team, and I watch him kind of like he's coming into his faith, right? And he's like, hey, you should come to this like thing on campus. I'm like, like, yeah, whatever. And I'm like watching this guy, and like he's slowly giving his life to Christ. Like I know he's a Christian, and like he's like kind of got one foot in both sides, and then all of a sudden it's like boom, like he is a follower of Christ. And I just like witnessed like that happening, and I was like, I think I want that. Like that seems so much better than what I'm doing, like so much better. And God, at that point, I think that actually might have been more around my sophomore year. No, maybe that was my freshman year. And at that point, I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to, go to church. I think I'm ready to find a church. I had been hurt by the church earlier. Right. I kind of felt like God placed on my heart like a calling for him when I was real little. And it was just like bad churches along the way really turned me off of church. Like, I'm like, God, I know you're real, but like, I don't know about this church thing. I don't know. Well, if you stay away long enough, obviously the road I went down is the road I went down. But I'm watching this guy on my team that I really respect, and just seeing him transform like before my eyes. I was like, whoa, I've never seen that before. So he's like, hey, you should come to this service we have on campus. I think you'd like this. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I go, and like, it's just like one of those singing worship service. And at the end, they're like, hey, turn to the person next to you. and, with a prayer request. And this lady sitting next to me, she clearly does not go to college. She's pregnant. She's just not of college age. She's not old by any means, but she's just not a college age. And I'm like, hey, I'm Anna. I think I'm ready to find a church. I think we should just pray about it. And she was like, oh, really? She was like, you should meet my husband. We're actually planting a church on your campus this Sunday is our first service. You should come. And I'm like, okay. And I go, and I had never experienced anything like that in my life. Like the most intentional people who their sole purpose was for you to know God, period. Not go to their church, to know God.
Yeah.
And I start meeting with them, and I start going to their church, and it was amazing. I had never heard the Bible preached like that. It was expository teaching. So they're teaching you line by line. And I was like, whoa, this is nothing I've experienced before in a church. And it'd be you go Sunday, and the next Sunday you go, they're like, oh, hey, how did that test go? And how's this going? And hey, how's track going? And it was just people inviting you in their homes. And I got
That's
to
awesome.
see for the first time, what does a Christian husband look like? What does a Christian wife look like? What do Christian brothers and sisters look like in the home? And how do they serve their community? And so the pastor and his wife, they end up moving literally 3 doors down from me. And so I become super close with them. He actually officiated my wedding, and very, very near and dear to my heart. I mean, she became like a surrogate mother to me. I mean,
that's awesome.
I can't tell you how many, both of them, and surrogate mother and father almost. Yeah. It's just the things that it makes me emotional, because I'm so grateful for them. Because it was sorry.
Don't be sorry.
Things that I could be real with them, and I could tell them dark things, and these things that I was ashamed about, things that I did and things that I thought or whatever, and I could share it with them, and they just met me with so much grace. And they just cared and loved me so well. And I had never felt like that before. And that's not to say that I know that my parents love me, without a doubt, but oftentimes I didn't always feel loved, because we don't communicate the same way. We couldn't be any more polar opposite. My love language is quality time, physical touch. Theirs is acts of service, words of affirmation. And so we've been speaking the wrong language for decades. And by the way, shout out to Gary Chapman, The 5 Love Languages. That's a great book for anybody to read, for any type of relationship you have, whether it's with your friend, your spouse, your kids.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yes.
It really opened my eyes just to whoa, I would be so annoyed. My dad would clean out my car, and I'd be like, leave my car alone. But it's after I read the book, I was like, oh my gosh, you love me. You cleaned my car because you love me. I get it now. But yeah, but for my pastor and his wife, they were just so instrumental, and there were a few others within the church as well, that became dear friends of mine who would, one bought me a Bible, and I just devoured it, and I would go through, and I'd have these sticky notes of all these questions, and who's this, who's that, who are they writing to, why is this significant, what does this mean? And they would sit with me for hours, just outside of one of the campus buildings, and be till midnight. They didn't care, just hey, what did you think of this? Or hey, what do you think? They were just so invested in me. I even have a letter from my pastor, and it was hey, even if New Covenant, that was a church, even if this isn't for you, this place, here's a list of a bunch of churches that I've been to personally. I know the pastors personally. I know that if you go here, you are getting sound teaching. This is a great place to be. And I was like, whoa, like I've been to so many churches that like trying to sell me on the church, like their church, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, no, like that wasn't that. He's like, I want you to know like what it is to be loved by God. Like I want you to know like who your creator is. I want you to know the freedom that is in Jesus. Like I want you to know that. Like that's what I care about. And I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so so they were huge in the beginning of my healing journey. And at that time, of course, I was like, you know what? I'm done with boys. Obviously, like that wasn't smart. It really just kind of pulled the rug right under me. And I was ready. Like I was ready just to live my life differently. Well, in waltzes my now husband, and he was just so different. And God was like, he's the one. Like he's it. Period. Like I just knew. I knew everything was so different. He was calm and he was kind and he's thoughtful and he's the type of person who he's always trying to be better every day. And he says this, if you're not trying to be better, if you're not trying to better yourself today, then you're just getting worse.
Right.
And I was like, man, like that's pretty intense, right? Like there was so much about myself that I didn't like. I really didn't like myself. And so I wanted to be better. And like, it wasn't like he was telling me like, you need to do all these things. Like he knew what I was like and he loved me anyways. And by the way he acted and carried himself and treated me, like that was also an encouragement for me to like heal these wounds and become a better person. And so that was the beginning of my transformation. And I think at that point, you know, anytime I had talked about my adoption, it was a very sad story. I sometimes couldn't even speak about it because it was just so painful for me. But once I gave my life to Christ, I finally understood and I finally found my identity. Like that is who I identify myself in, like in Christ alone. And like I don't have to find my identity in my biological family. I don't have to find my identity in my adoptive family. I don't have to find my identity in anything but Christ. And that was like the most freeing thing. And that was like the catalyst to like this journey that I've been on of like righting my wrongs and becoming who I am now, and a person that I would say that I do like who I am and I am proud of who I am. And so of course, while transformation takes a while, right? And it takes a lot of work. And you got to be willing to put in the work and you got to be willing to be humble, right? Like I had done some pretty not nice things. And I've been pretty rough, I think, in my relationship with my parents. And I think I know I hurt them in how I acted and the things I said and did. Obviously because I was hurting, right? Hurt people. And but so there's a lot that I've had to do to take responsibility for that. And I've done that. And I'm really proud of that. But so I started just like doing a lot of different like searching of just different mindsets. I'm trying to think of this one book that I read. It's called Extreme Ownership. Great book. It's all about like, instead of like passing the buck and being like, oh, it's their fault because my boss, they just don't understand. Is it, or did you just not explain yourself well enough? Like my boss doesn't understand what I'm trying to do. Like maybe they sent me like this email, like, why are you doing this? This is da 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 da. It's like, okay, maybe I just didn't explain what I'm doing well enough. Like, how can I take responsibility instead of like passing the buck, right? And so it's like, if my parents who feel hurt are treating me or not treating, are reacting or acting a certain way, or maybe a little timid with me, that's on me, right? Like how can I come to them? What can I do? Because at the end of the day, I can't control anybody else, whether it's my kids, my husband, my family, like anybody, my neighbor, my friends, like there's nobody that I can control but myself. And I think once you realize the autonomy you have over your life, you can do anything. And like maybe people want to come along with you, maybe they don't, but that's not for you to worry about. So that's just been really freeing. But so I've just been like really on this journey of kind of taking my power back. And so when I became a mom for the first time about, let's see, 5.5 years ago, I remember holding him and we were rocking in his room. And I just like got this thought of like my birth mom. And I was thinking like, whoa, what was going on in her life that the best possible solution for her was to leave me on a doorstep. Like,
yeah.
And it broke my heart for her, but it freed me from like that, maybe that little scab that was still there that I like closed it up for me of like, it wasn't me. Like it was never me, right? It was never me.
Yeah.
And it really just like made me have this really deep appreciation that she gave me life. Like she sacrificed probably a lot. Like she sacrificed, I mean, let's just be honest, the fact she sacrificed 9 months of her life.
Yeah.
Then she sacrificed, I'm 34 more years she has sacrificed. I would bet that she thinks about me at some point.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how often,
for sure.
but I'm sure it crosses her mind.
Oh yeah.
And so my dream would be someday just to find her and to be like, hey, thank you. I made it. I'm good. That decision you made is the best decision that you've ever made. Yeah. Like, because I live a beautiful life. I have an amazing husband. I have beautiful children. I'm happy. I'm healthy. Thank you. Like, thank you so much. And I hope for her. I pray for her often. I think of her often. I hope that she is well. I hope this isn't something that haunts her. Because I do think about that sometimes, and I do pray that she is at peace. I pray that somehow she knows that I'm okay. But yeah, so with so a few months ago, or actually no, sorry, backtrack. About a year ago, I was on vacation with my husband. We were doing a little baby moon until for our third, and we're just like out on the beach. And I don't know, I had done 23andMe years ago, and nothing ever came of it. And then I had gotten this one person, and it was like second cousin. And I was like, huh. And I don't really know how DNA works. And I'm like, oh, second cousin, that could be pretty distant. I don't really know how this works. And so I'm like, whatever. It's not like first cousin. It's not like, and so I'm like, whatever. I don't do anything with it. And I don't know, something came over me and I was like, shoot your shot. Like, what's the worst that could happen? They don't respond.
Right.
And so I just decided that I'm gonna message the top 5 closest. So I messaged them, hey, this is my story. I'm adopted, blah, 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 give my spiel. If you happen to know anything, or if you'd be interested, I would, I'd like to, talk to you and see, can we work something out? I can purchase you a kit or something, see if other family members would be interested in taking it. Nothing, didn't get anything. And I was like, kind of stinks, whatever. And then a couple months later, I was like, what the heck? I'll just do the next 5. Like, what's the worst that could happen? So I do. And I get this guy who responds, who is also linked to my number 1 person. And he's like, if this is true, I'd love to help you. And I'm like, cool. How do you know so-and-so? He's like, oh, that's my sister. I'm like, what? Your sister? So what I didn't know, which is obvious probably to anybody who has a brain, but not to me, is that you don't get the same DNA as your siblings. Like you get 50% from your mom, 50% from your dad, but it's not the same 50%.
Right.
So
right.
So I matched better to his sister than I did to him. And so anyway, so I'm like, oh, okay. And so I'm like, well, if this is right, then like we're second cousins at best. One of my parents is one of his parents' first cousins.
Wow.
So they're like all on board. They're like, yeah, like we're excited. We want to help you. Like his parents are super cute. They're like, yeah, like no problem. So we've been like going back and forth and trying to figure out, which by the way, anybody listening, if you're going to do 23andMe, make sure that if you are international, they don't service all countries, and Colombia being one of them. They don't service Colombia, which I didn't know. So like, thank you, God, for like, his sister just happens to live in Houston, Texas. He still lives, like the rest of them all still live in Colombia. So just by chance, she lives in Texas. And when he was visiting, she was like, hey, let's take these DNA tests by chance. And so, yeah, like,
love it. For a fun activity. Let's do this.
I was about to say, that's the strangest bonding activity ever. But all right, let's spit in a tube and mail it off.
So when I tried to purchase them a kit, because I'm like, so he'd actually done a really good job on his 23andMe. He had a lot of information about different family members, and somehow through the thing, it linked us through his dad's line up into his grandmother and whatnot. And so because there's no DNA from the next generations, it's kind of all dispersed all over the place. But once we get that DNA, then it can kind of shift everybody into their proper thing. So right now we're kind of all over the place.
Right.
But yeah, so like I had tried to send him a kit, and it's like, no, you can't send it there. So then I was like, okay, send it through ancestry.com. And that's been a whole trip, and trying to get it out, because apparently Colombia has just passed some sort of law or something that you have to have like some sort of legal document from Ancestry stating what's in the box, which makes no sense. Like, why can you send it there but you can't send it back? Doesn't make any sense.
Weird.
But anyway,
I have so many questions about Colombia now.
So his sister happens to be visiting him now, like right now. So she's gonna bring the box back to the US and send it out. So I'm like, God, thank you for like being on time. Like on time for me, right? Like, wow, what are the chances? I'm so excited. Like, just to like be even this close is like exciting. And like, I've been thinking about, because my husband was like, so what if his dad takes it and like we don't get much? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm just happy just to be this close. And I've been thinking, like, I don't know, do I just like write like a letter and be like, hey, share with whatever family you want, like anybody, just send it across to whoever. And maybe, because best case scenario, it's my mom, because obviously she knows, right? Worst case scenario, it's my dad and he doesn't even know I exist. So whoever it is, I hope they know.
Surprise!
So I don't know. So it'll be interesting, but yeah, I'm super excited. But yeah, so I've just been, I don't know. It's been an exciting, exhausting journey, but I'm excited to find them now, and I do believe that I'll find somebody, whether it's a sibling or something. But yeah, I'm excited.
It's crazy. That's awesome. And God, man, oh man, he works in crazy ways. That's for sure. That it's just buckle up. I have a feeling your story's not over. Like, seriously, from everything that's happened. Like, that's exciting.
Slightly.
That's exciting. It's so exciting. Oh, I had a question. Oh, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
How do your parents feel about it?
Oh, that's a good one.
You know what? So here's the thing about my parents. They are not they're not comfortable with emotions, right? So like,
okay.
That's why I don't really know much about like my adoption, or didn't for such a long time, because it's never that you can't talk about things. It's just that it's awkward and it's not comfortable. So you just don't. so I told them, and then I was like, ooh, like maybe I should have been like, hey, by the way, and like I have, but like, hey, by the way, like I'm not trying to replace you. Like I'm not looking for them
Right.
other than like at the very least, just to say like, thank you, I made it. Like you made the right
Right.
choice.
Yes.
Like you're still my mom and dad. Like, and my
Yes.
brothers know. Like I've already told my brothers, like, listen, like you guys are my brothers. Like that's it. There's
Yeah.
nothing else. You
Right.
know. And then so for my mom did ask me a few times, or sorry, she asked me once of just like a follow up of like, hey, have you heard anything else? And so like when I first told her, she was like, oh, okay. Yeah, you've always wanted to do that. Like that was it. But like that's not my mom, right? Like she's not like a deep, she doesn't like going there. She doesn't like being vulnerable. She doesn't like she doesn't like that. So so I don't know. I don't really know how she feels about it. I hope she doesn't harbor any feelings about it.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe they do.
Out of curiosity, do you think she would come out and say if it bothered her, or do you think she would like use other methods to like relay like it being uncomfy for her,
or just ignore it altogether,
or just pretend like it's not happening?
I don't know. I mean she did ask, so I mean maybe just I don't know. I don't really know. Yeah, I think I again just need to be more clear to them of like my intention, right? Like, and I think that might just squash any type of feelings that they have, because honestly, I don't think that they would share their feelings. Because there have been times in the past where I've tried to maybe share some thoughts that I've had or feelings I've had about maybe some not some more unpleasant things that had been said on their behalf, and not in a way that was trying to be hurtful to me, but it was hurtful to me. And they're like, well, if we didn't want you, we wouldn't have come and got you. And it's like, okay, what the hell does that mean? Like, okay, we're you know, like that's not what I'm saying. Obviously you want me, obviously you love me, but like, so I think in that way, like just talking about feelings is it's kind of gets shut down, I think.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you this. I can empathize with you on that. Like, and I know we've talked about things before, but like it goes back to where you don't want to hurt them. And so you kind of keep things bottled up, and then they may want to know. And so they don't ask because you haven't really shared that portion of your life with them. Like I have done that. And if my mom's listening, she knows that. Like we've discussed that. Like I didn't share things because I didn't want to hurt her because of per se the way that they reacted when I told them. And you know, and like crazy ironically today me and her had a really good conversation about it, and she's like, well, now I understand like why you feel the way you feel. And now she knows like it was never malicious. It was more I had to protect my peace because it was a lot going on and I didn't want to hurt you in the process. So I empathize with you on that because it's hard. Really hard
for sure. So. Yeah, and like my parents, like I know that even if it did hurt them, even if they did feel some sort of way about it, they would support me anyway. Like they've always been that way, and I do really respect that about them, that there have been situations that may not have gone the way that they want, but they are ride or die in that way of like they will do anything for you. That's pretty cool about them. Like I do really appreciate that about them, and I kind of carry that with me, like, you know, as a parent now, of just understanding. I mean, my parents, like when I was in college, I went to college 3 hours away. I did track. I was not good at track. Okay. It was a D3 school. Anybody can be on the team. Okay. And they would drive. I did pole vault. Okay. Pole vault. Not a long sport. Okay. You run down the runway. I wasn't very good. So it's like, sometimes it'd be like, I had no height. And they would drive like 3 hours down, watch me pole vault, and drive 3 hours back. Like they're just like that. Like they're just dedicated like that. So as hard as that would be on them, like they have jobs, they have a life, you know, and they would do that. So so I think even if it was painful for them, one, I don't think that they would ever share with me that it is painful.
Right.
And two, actually, I know for a fact they wouldn't share with me that it's painful unless I brought it up and asked them like, hey, how do you feel about that?
Yeah.
And maybe I should, just, yeah, I don't know, maybe I will. But I also know that like, even if it is painful, they'll still support me. They'll still,
Yeah.
I think they'll still be, and I think they will genuinely be happy for me. If I do, or when I do, I want to speak that into existence. When I do find family,
Right.
I do believe that they will be happy. And I know my brother, one of my brothers, he's so cute. He's so excited. He's like, hey, so I was just thinking like, when you find your family and you like go down, like, I want to be like a support person for you. Like, I want to go with you. And like,
So
you know, like if
cute.
you need to cry, like, I know I was like talking to my husband, I was like, oh, listen, I love him for that. Like that was the sweetest thing, but there's no way I'm ever gonna like let him do that. Cause like, that would be a lot. Like, as you know, like how you feel, Melina, like, right? Like I've been listening to you and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I've cried over like listening to you talk about that, like just envisioning like what is that going to be like. And
Yeah.
my husband's been trying to get me to go to Colombia like forever, and I'm like, I'm not ready.
Yes.
Like when
It's
I
not that
go,
easy.
like, it's not gonna be like some, and I'm not even meeting anybody, right? Like you're actually like meeting people. Like I am too sensitive for this. Like I cry over everything. Like I'm so
I'm the same way,
sentimental.
man.
Oh man, I am a highly sensitive person, and
Is
so
your brother, bless his heart, is he blonde, blue-eyed?
yeah.
So he'd stick out like a sore thumb in the Columbia. That's like my favorite part.
Right? I'm like, okay. They both are blonde hair, blue eyes.
That's so cute though. That's
Well,
so sweet.
Could you
I
imagine
love
that? And if something happened, he'd probably try to go into protective mode and be like, "That's my sister," and like everyone
be
in
like,
Colombia would be going,
Nope.
"No,
Right?
she's not." Like,
This is the same boy that when we were younger, this little boy was not very kind to me, and he was like calling me names or something about my skin color and whatever, and my brother beat him up.
Oh, I love it so much though.
He's
Like
so protective. He's so protective.
that's so sweet. I love that.
Yeah, my brothers are awesome. I adore them. They're really cool.
Anyway, do you have anything else that you want to share? Delancey, do you have any questions?
not really. I'm just excited to see where her story goes because, Melina, did you do 23andMe or did you do Ancestry?
No, I did 23andMe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't, I thought it was, but because like my 23andMe, I keep getting fourth cousins reaching out. I'm like, we're not even related at that point. Like,
Right.
respectfully, like
Exactly.
respectfully. And they're all like, we're family. And I'm going, no, we're not. So like listening, I've just kind of, I guess I do have a question about it because with my 23andMe, sorry, my dog just like jumped around in my lap real quick. My 23andMe, it's got to the point where it's like, have you ever felt overwhelmed with the whole entire thing? Like just that moment of it being like it's so much and like because people try to be so supportive, but they're like so in it and they're like, well, what'd you find out? What about this? What about that? And it's just like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, let me breathe. Let me take it. How did you address that? Like the feeling of being overwhelmed, or did you have that moment where you felt overwhelmed and it's just like this is just a lot to take in. I need to take a step back. Or was there any, or was everybody just, I mean, if everybody in your life is being nice about it and they're not asking you a million questions at one time, can I come have your life?
Oh, you mean about like overwhelming as far as like people outside of?
Yeah, outside of the, like, outside of it.
No, the only people who have really like consistently asked, actually is my husband's grandmother, who I am very close to. I mean, she moved away. She used to live by us and now she lives out in Arizona. But yeah, like she's so sweet. She's the only one who really like consistent. Like anytime I talk to her, she's like, "And what's going on? Like, have you learned any more? Have they received their kit yet?" Like oh, I adore her. She is the best.
That's sweet.
She is a woman that I want to like be like. Like she is just, she's the best.
We need to
I
talk
hope
off air
someday that I
because
can be as cool as her. Like she's the best.
because my grandma's in Arizona too. So we need to talk about it after so we can get location pinpointed down after we're off the air.
She lives
So I
out in
don't
the
give
middle of
location
nowhere,
away.
so probably not. Yeah.
I like how she's like out in the middle of nowhere. No. Mm-mm.
Yeah, but what I was gonna say.
Sorry, you're talking about
Yeah, no,
grandma, how
I
awesome
forgot
she
to
is.
tell you how I found you.
Me?
How I
Oh.
stumbled across your page.
Oh.
So I go on like this, I get like this, like, I don't know, I'm gonna find my family, right? And I'm like all jazzed up on it. So I'm like doing this and that and looking online and how do you read the DNA stuff? What does this mean? And whatever. And so I'm so overwhelmed. So I'm like, there's gotta be a Facebook page for this, which there is. And and it's like search angels or something. I don't know, it's like adult adoptee. I don't know, basically they help you find people, find if you've been adopted or whatever. And so I joined that group and then I see there's an adoptee support group and I'm like for adults. And I was like, this is so cool. Like, I don't really know anybody who's adopted. Like, let me join this. I was so excited. Join it. Oh my gosh, it was like a cesspool of like just despair, like people just circling the drain together. And I was like, gotta get out of here. I mean, like I tried to be like positive and like it was really interesting to read a lot of people's stories. And it was eye-opening for me to be like, whoa, like I am blessed. Thank goodness I don't have that life. Like, thank goodness, like my brothers like have always treated me as like their sister. You know, there were some stories about siblings who didn't jive or, you know, dads who didn't want anything to do with them and treated them different than biological siblings and whatnot. And or just some real messed up stuff. But then other stuff, it was just kind of like, dude, you're like 56, like move on. Like you were adopted. Like that is true. You can't change it.
No,
you
I
know?
love you
And,
more.
like,
You are 56. Move on.
I love
like,
that because I agree with that. At that point, when you're in your 50s, you can go get therapy and move on.
Yeah, it's just like I don't understand, and I don't ever want to be a person who just lives their life as a victim. Like,
yes,
why, like that just it just seems so draining and not a life that I want to live. And so as quickly as I joined that group, as quickly as I left it, I was like, wow, this is like pulling me down, right? Like, because like you would try to say something positive, like, well, not me, not my story. And it's like, okay, well, obviously, I'm sorry that happened to you. I think there also is like a fine line of like validating people and their feelings, but like also like just like infantilizing people, right? And like encouraging them to like not take ownership of their lives. It's like you are not, you may have been victimized. You don't have to remain a victim.
Yes.
Right. And like,
yeah,
like, so anyway, so then I was like, okay, well, that didn't work. And so then I just like went on Instagram and I think I just like typed in like adoptee, like Columbia adoptee or something like that. And then like you popped up somewhere like in the feed or whatever. And I was like, who's this chick? And I was like, I'm like, okay, yeah, I like what she has to say. Okay. And then I found the podcast and I'm just like, wow, like people are out there who do love adoption. Like I don't know, I love it. Like, yeah, I don't know. No. Anyway, I'm just like I said, just like the whole spectrum, giving a voice to people who are adopted, who adopt, who want to place their kids for adoption. It's just like, yeah. So that's how I found you guys, though.
That's crazy. No,
but I'm not on TikTok. Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's okay.
No, and I love it because, but it also shows too, like how noisy the negative victim people are compared to how we are. Like, because you found a lot more of that versus like, oh, hey, there are people, and it's sad because I feel like there are probably more people like us, but they just get snuffed down because media just likes to push the negative like crazy because people
the
feed
algorithms
off of that. Yeah,
the algorithms on all the social platforms like to push the negative. They like to push the fear. They like to push the anger and the hate. It's very, I feel like it takes 10 times more work to share the positive message than it does to share the negative.
It's true.
Yeah,
It's
So there's like
exhausting.
science behind that too, as far as like, you know, you can get 10 positive, you know, affirmations from somebody, but then like that one negative one, it's like,
Ruins your day.
that'll be the one that sticks
So
out.
true.
It's like, why is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. Yeah. Because it cuts. Anyway. Okay. Well, I mean, you've already had so much goodness, but the question, which, you know, I ask everybody at the end, what advice would you give to adoptees maybe who are looking, because your story's more like looking for, like, searching for your birth family right now? What advice would you give?
Ooh, I'm not prepared for that question. Say it again. What advice I'd give for people
To adoptees
searching for their,
like, kind of right in your situation right now, where you're not quite there, you're still in the midst, you're hoping everything will happen, you're leaning onto God, those kinds of things.
Yeah, for sure. I think if that's something that you want in your life, like, go for it. It's probably going to be hard. It's probably going to take a lot of time, effort. Thus far for me, it's been a lot of ups, a lot of downs, a lot of waiting. But I think what the most important thing is your purpose. Like, why are you doing it? Are you doing it to, like, because you're trying to fill something, because that's what you're trying to identify yourself in? If that's what you're trying to do, like, I feel like that's going to set you up for disappointment, because what if you don't find them? Disappointment. What if you find them and it's a really messed up situation? Disappointment. Yeah. What if, you know, there's so many ways that it can go left, and I don't mean to be like negative, but like, that's the truth, right?
Yeah.
And again, you can only control you. And so for me, like, if I tried to find my family 15 years ago, that would have been a hot mess. Like, I was not ready. Now I am so, like, there's nothing that will shake me, right? Like, my faith can't be shook. Like, you can't shake my faith. You can't shake, like, who I've become. I am a strong person in my mind, body, spirit, like, everything. So, like, if it ends up being a situation that's not so great, like, that doesn't define me, right? Like some of the stories that I had read on that Facebook group that I was telling you about. It's like, oh, well, I found my family in horror story. And it's like, yeah, that does really stink. But, like, that's not you.
Yeah.
You're not them.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think if you're gonna do it, then, like, just know that, like, you are you. You're not anybody else. And yeah, I think just knowing your purpose and sticking to that.
I love that. No, I think that's great. I love that so much. So anyway, all right. Anything else, guys? Okay. Well, Anna, seriously, thank you for taking some time out of your night and doing this for us. I appreciate it. I'm pretty sure you're the same time zone as Delancey, so hopefully it's not too late, but we appreciate it. And I know it depends on when anybody listens to this. Sometimes it's bright and early in the morning, but thank you for joining us. And we so appreciate it, like, for you being here, and we're excited. And depending on what happens, we probably will have to ask you back to see what finds out, because that will be exciting.
Yes.
So Delancey's already like, yes.
I'm invested at this point. I need to know what happens.
Yeah.
I need to know what happens. I'm sorry.
Right. So are people that listen too. So awesome. Okay. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here. Seriously.
Thank you for having me on.